Welcome to the Go 3 versus GoPro comparison. In this video, I'm going to walk you through everything that is on the right side of the screen and talk about the differences between the cameras. At the end of the day, I'll share why I went with the Go 3 and why you might want to as well. However, they're both great cameras and there's links in the description for either one of them. So if this video helps you decide between the two, it'd really help me out if you use the Amazon affiliate links. That being said, there's a video showing up right now on the right side. You can see the link at the top. That video was my first impression of the Go 3 and it went terribly. I bought the camera myself. I hated it, had some major issues, and I talk about that in the video. However, if you go to the second link that's going to be popping up right now, that's part 2, where I spent over 37 minutes going through every detail of this camera to help you make a buying decision on the camera itself, and that would be very informative. This video is just to show you the differences between the two and why I picked this one. Now, let's get into it. First up, the packaging. The Go 3 just comes in this box. It's a nice box, it's a great presentation, but it's just a box. The GoPro comes with a carry case, which is a nice place to keep your camera safe when you're traveling. It would be nice if Insta360 sent this camera with a carry case too. Instead, you have to buy it separately. So the GoPro wins this one. As far as the accessories that are included in the box, the Go 3 wins this one hands down. The GoPro just comes with the standard GoPro mount, the screw-in thing, and then one sticky pad. That's it. Nothing that you could even do anything else with. It's a one-time use. So that's what you get. The Go 3, on the other hand, comes with this little guy, which I absolutely love. It's just so nice. And then you've got the hat clip, which is a great little angle that I'm coming to love even more. And you've got the little hockey puck hanging from the necklace mount, as well as the angler. And you get a sticky mount that this thing can also attach to that I use in the car and stuff like that, which is why it's not with me. So the Go 3 wins for the accessories in the box. However, both cameras have a slew of accessories available to you outside of this purchase, and you can get them aftermarket, whatever. And in that case, I'd say that it's a wash for the accessories that are available. Let's briefly talk about form and function. Obviously, we're very familiar with the GoPro form, so there's not much to say about that. You get the little flippy down things, and that's it. The Go 3, on the other hand, has a changing form. It transforms. You can flip the screen up, and you've got a touchable interface while it's facing you, which is really nice. That also means that you've got the wireless viewing, which I have come to absolutely love. It is significantly better than the GoPro in that regard, and you can pull the camera off and put it places. So the form for this one increases its function. As you saw with the accessories, this thing can go in a lot more places right out of the box. This thing can't. So while it's still usable and it's a great camera and it can go different places, it can't go as many places as this one. So the form of this one, to me, improves its function, and that's a win. So for me, the Go 3 wins this one as well. At this point, everybody pretty much knows the GoPro's batteries are terrible. They have a reputation for it. Even with the Enduro battery, this thing dies significantly faster than the Go 3. However, I could hardly even test that because every time I tried to run my filming test, this thing overheated and shut down. I'd have to wait 15 minutes to restart it, so I don't even know if the battery is so much of an issue as the overheating. This thing never overheated. It filmed for 1 hour and 37 minutes at 1440, 50 frames per second in free frame mode, and the storage filled up before the battery died. This guy, I was filming at 4K 60 because those are the two use cases that I would have, and it's in the full frame mode, and I couldn't make it past 14 minutes of filming before it overheated. So even with all of that, this guy's battery still died faster than this one. I would wait 15 minutes, turn it back on, let it go. This one still died first. So this one wins the battery, which leads us to the charging. At the end of the day, this one charges faster as well. When I used a portable power bank, which I have linked in the description, you can check that out. This guy charged in 50 to 60 minutes. This guy charged in 100 minutes. Took significantly longer. When I plugged them both into an outlet using my iPad charger, which you can see in the description as well, I have a picture of that on the side, it took 80 minutes for this one, and once again 50 to 60. So this one was pretty consistent. Seems like this might be, tuned for maybe a faster charging experience if you had a supercharger or something. At the end of the day, though, this one charges faster and lasts longer, so this one wins the charging and the battery. Now, if you're looking at either of these cameras, you have to consider the durability. At the end of the day, the GoPro, as it comes just like this, wins hands down. It can go deeper it can go in the water, first of all, and it's more rugged and durable just on the outside. This guy, in the action pod, you've got the flip out screen, that's a risk, obviously. If that's up while you're trying to film and that gets knocked or something or smacked, that's going to be a problem. I don't know how long this mechanism will be able to fold and unfold before you've got some sort of damage going on. Maybe it's a long enough time that it would never matter. And then obviously this is not waterproof, it's water resistant, but I don't even know how that would handle like a torrential downpour or something like that. However, what gets interesting is when we remove it to this scenario. As far as this scenario goes, this one is still not as waterproof as that one, but when you're filming with this in an action activity, the only thing that's really fragile that I think could get damaged is the screen. You could scratch it or the lens. If you do that, it's a $10 replacement, super easy. The same thing for the GoPro. The lens cover is easily replaceable. But if you're filming in an action activity and one of these screens get damaged because the GoPro itself has to be in that activity, then you probably just have to replace the whole camera. So in that case, it's kind of an interesting situation. In this form, the Go 3 loses, for sure. The GoPro takes the win. But when you separate it down to the pill, I think you're getting closer to an equal match as far as durability goes. When it comes to video quality, it's not a question. The GoPro has higher video quality. 5K, 4K, all that kind of stuff. The Go 3 only goes up to 2.7K, and in that range, you only get up to 30 frames per second. So in that scenario, the GoPro wins hands down. However, I'm filming both in full frame mode and free frame mode, so I only get 4K 60 here, and my filming time is limited, as I talked about earlier, whereas this one can go with the 1440, 60 frame or 50 frames per second, unlimited. It just keeps going. It doesn't overheat, the battery doesn't die. This is a better situation for me in that regard. So if you're looking for the highest picture quality, then the GoPro is your choice. If that's the one thing that matters to you more than anything else, then pick the GoPro. All right, it's going to do a better job. But if you're looking for a better balance of all of it, then the Go 3 wins to me, no question. All right, and I'm going to have videos on the side playing here where you can see the quality comparison. I think at the end of the day, when you're watching a video on your phone, 4K versus 1080p versus 1440p, most people aren't even paying attention to the difference. Obviously, if you were thinking about it, then it would matter. But that's where I think it's the content that you're filming that matters more than the quality of the video that you're filming it at. Now let's talk about stabilization, because both of these do an incredible job with stabilization. However, as you'll see on the footage that's playing to the right of me over here, the GoPro's footage in the background, the horizon, gets a little shaky and wobbly, and you'll notice that while I'm running. The Go 3, on the other hand, whatever AI system they're using to figure out the stabilization is significantly better. I've watched way more hours of my own footage than you will ever watch. And at the end of the day, the Go 3 does a significantly better job keeping everything steady and making the picture look nice. However, that's my use case scenario. I'm out there running with 2 cameras. That's not very common. When it comes to like biking or other extreme sports activities, I think both of these cameras are going to do good enough that it doesn't really matter between the two. However, for me, with what I am doing, this one wins, so I go with the Go 3. And now let's dive into the audio quality. At the end of the day, if you click the link that's right up here popping up, that'll take you to my first video where I experienced a terrible thing with this audio. It was an audio lag. It's still showing up every once in a while. I'm working with Insta360. I actually sent them my raw footage. They've been doing some tests, and it is something that they believe can be fixed with firmware, so that should be solved. So if we ignore that, then we just dive into the straight audio quality from the cameras. And what I would say is they're pretty close. I think this one does a better job with wind reduction when I'm out on the run than the GoPro. What up? I hope you're having a good day. The pun for the day is this: what did one sock say to the other sock in the dryer? What up? I hope you're having a good day. The pun for the day is this: what did one sock say to the other sock in the dryer? But with a little bit of editing in post-production, you can kind of bring both of these up to a usable situation. And either way, if you're just trying to do a run and gun vlog, you're gonna get decent enough audio to make both of them work for what you're filming. What up? I hope you're having a good day. The pun for the day is this: what did one sock say to the other sock in the dryer? What up? I hope you're having a good day. The pun for the day is this: what did one sock say to the other sock in the dryer? I would say one thing that I would love is if you could plug in a USB-C mic into here like what DJI did, but I don't know how often you would really want to use that. The only situation that I think that would apply to is if you're not doing anything active and you're using some sort of a lav mic or a wireless mic. I would actually love that. If I could just plug a wireless mic into there and then run it up to here for what I'm filming, I think I would use that every once in a while. But honestly, my use case with this camera dictates that I would almost only ever use the onboard, the natural mic. So in that case, I would say both companies should focus on creating the highest quality mics they can. And for me, it's close enough between the two that I wouldn't say this is a deciding factor. However, this one I find edits a little bit better, and so I go with the Go 3 on this one as well. I want to talk very briefly about the voice activation between these two cameras. At the end of the day, on the run, the GoPro does better. I have found that it is more consistent with the commands, and it regularly does start and stop when it's supposed to. However, in a controlled environment like right now, if I say, GoPro, start recording, you will see both cameras started because this one only requires the end of the phrase, whereas the GoPro requires you to say GoPro. When they're both filming, you can just say the phrase, stop recording, and they should have both. Stop recording. Well, that's interesting. GoPro, stop recording. So you can see how both of them, I mean, the word stop or start is not like a major impact. Stop recording. So that's kind of how they work. I would say that they're both good, very usable. I actually loved that on this one recently with what I was filming, and I'll talk about that more in a second here, but it allowed me to use start and stop the camera hands-free, and my hands were full, so that was useful. This one was significantly better on the run, so if you're working with windy environments or outdoor stuff in general, I think the GoPro is going to be your way to go if voice activation is your main decision maker. But if it's not, then the Go 3s is good enough. So the Go 3, while it doesn't win this one, it's still good enough. So I think that ease of use, while not super important, is something that you should take into consideration, because if it's fun and easy to use, you're more likely to use it. Now with the GoPro, if I want to get it ready to go, it's going to look something like this. Obviously, you've got to pull the little fingers down or whatever you want to call those, and then line them up, and then throw this guy on. So we're talking a few seconds. Like, this is obviously not a deal breaker for the ease to use. Now, obviously, you have to crank that down, and that can be annoying, and sometimes it gets over tightened, but that is what it is. The Go 3, on the other hand, is ready to go basically immediately. So if you were to have the GoPro in this position, then I would say it's even more negligible. Like, it just doesn't matter that much. And once you're in here, to me, the GoPro is much better and more securely mounted than the Go 3. I don't know how much I trust these clamps yet. I feel like maybe the pins could break at some point, and if one of those was loose, the whole thing's popping off. So just something to consider. But as far as ease of use goes, the Go 3 is significantly easier to get on and off and use different places. Also, when it comes to file transfers, when it comes to plugging in or charging, it's just really easy to do. When you plug this straight into the computer, you can choose USB mode and pull the files off immediately, which is nice. I talk about that in the video that's linked up here. It's a full 37-minute thing. It'll walk you through all of my file processing stuff. However, this one, you've got to open and close the door every time you do it. So that to me is it's just a little bit annoying. It's not like a deal breaker, but it is annoying. And then in order to get the files off, I have to pull the memory card out, plug them into my reader, plug the reader into the computer. It's just a couple extra steps that I find to make it a little less fun and easy to use. And I think that when something is easy and fun to use, you're more likely to use it. So I say this with exercise. You shouldn't try and do the workout that you want to do. You should commit yourself to the workout that you will do, and then build yourself up to wherever you think you can go. Same thing goes with the cameras. If you buy a camera that you're not going to use, even though you like the idea of using it, that's a waste of money. In regards to actually using the camera itself, I found that the user interface is better with the Go 3. I just like how quickly you can get to certain settings over the other ones. So for this one, for instance, if I swipe down, I can quickly get to my brightness settings. Whereas for the GoPro, it's like you got to swipe down, you got to swipe over, you got to hit preferences, and then you can get to some of that stuff. There's just a little bit more that I have to do, more steps to use the GoPro to get to the different settings than the Go 3. So the Go 3 wins on that one to me as well for usability. Those are my thoughts on it. However, when it comes to working with the footage, I do want to share this briefly because I think it matters. And that is that in order to use the Go 3 footage that I'm filming in free frame mode, I have to process it in their studio app. And that obviously takes time, and I have to wait for that to finish, and then I move it into Final Cut. Whereas the GoPro footage, I can take straight into Final Cut, and I resize it in there because I'm using their full frame portion. What that means is that I have the extra frame to work with. I can slide the footage over if I wanted. I can reset it down because you have to make it bigger to fit. Whereas with the Go 3, you're locked into whatever they export. Now, you can technically make the changes before it exports, but I actually prefer the GoPro's way of handling that you get to just take their full frame and work with it afterwards. I wish the Go 3 could do that, but I don't think you would get the stabilization that they have, and their stabilization is insane. So those are my two thoughts on the ease of use. For me, the Go 3 wins hands down across the board, but the GoPro has some nice perks, especially when you're editing in Final Cut for me with the way that it resizes. I want to quickly talk about use case scenario because that is helpful in decision making. If you are only using this for extreme sports kind of stuff, like you're going surfing or diving or mountain biking, then maybe the GoPro is the right thing for you just because you're going to use it in that situation. You want to have the touchscreen available and all that kind of stuff and the front facing view. That makes sense to me, because if you're doing anything action related, I would probably never have this whole thing set up like this. What I would do is use the dive case. If you put this in the dive case and you're using it in an action setting, then that makes sense to me. Especially when it comes to water. I would never put this on my surfboard like this. I'd be too concerned that this thing would get knocked off. But with the dive case attached using the GoPro style mounting, I would not be concerned at all. So in regards to use case, I think the GoPro fits a very specific use case, but the Go 3 can be made to fit those use cases. And at that point, I would still give it to the Go 3 for all of that, all the extra stuff you get with it. Now, you are going to lose the functionality of the screen with the Go 3. You won't be able to see yourself from the front, but you could easily, turn around and check kind of stuff. So I think the GoPro wins in that one regard, but once you upgrade it with the case, which is a cost you have to consider, then the Go 3 does more than good enough for me to make it worth still picking the Go 3. However, that's just dealing with extreme sports. When it comes to every other style of video filming, I think this one just separates itself and takes on a quick lead. And here's what I mean. I'm going to have some video playing on the side here where I was fixing my AC unit. This little pod was able to go in places that I actually couldn't get the GoPro. One of my funny favorite things about the influencers that made all their videos was like they would talk about putting this thing in places they never would have thought. But most of the time, the GoPro actually could have fit in all of those places with a few exceptions. However, in this case, what you're seeing on the side here, this little guy could quickly magnetize to the different locations. And what was more important is I could easily see what I was getting from this monitor, which was amazing. I know you can monitor the GoPro from the phone, but this is so much easier to use than your phone. So if you're doing any sort of DIY fix-it stuff, I think this is the perfect choice for you. It is a great B-roll camera, especially, if you don't need audio, then it doesn't even matter at all. The video quality is more than good enough to show anything that you're showing, but the ability to film in unique situations, and it's very specific to the kind of video that I'm showing you over there, this thing just makes it a great dynamic experience, and I think that would be really useful for your viewers. So I think that is where this thing fits the best in use case scenario. Most of the time, you could probably fit the entire action pod wherever you're putting the Go 3, but for those shots that you couldn't, it's so fun to just put that montage together. So that's where I would go with this. Once again, to me, for use cases, this thing just once again takes a solid lead. So I would pick the Go 3 again. And that brings us to my final thoughts on these two cameras. I'm taking the GoPro back for 3 reasons. The first one is the battery. I don't like that I would have to buy another battery, keep that thing charged, have another battery charging spot for it, and switch them out because this thing is going to die really fast. The second problem that I have with the GoPro is the overheating. It is very frustrating to just have this thing die because it gets so hot, and there's no way around the heating. It's going to keep getting hot. Even if you filmed in smaller spurts, if I was out in the sun, it would just get hot. And the third thing for me with the GoPro is a little less important, and that's just ease of use. At the end of the day, it's just a little bit more difficult to use, a little bit more cumbersome, and I don't love all of that. When it comes to the Go 3, I never have to worry about the battery. Like, I can just film and plug it in and it's going to go. Now, yeah, maybe in long term, that's going to be a problem because you can't change out the battery. Whereas, if a battery dies for this, you could just replace it. So that's something to consider. But then when it comes to like the overheating, that second issue, this thing has never done that. It's never even gotten close to that. Like, I've checked all the temperatures and stuff. At the end of the day, it just does really well. And then the third thing, which is the ease of use, this guy is just easier to use. In fact, he's more fun to use. And I know that's kind of crazy to say, especially coming out of my mouth right now, just because I'm thinking back to the start of this journey where like I was so mad at this camera for what it was doing to me with the audio lag. But at the end of the day, this thing has made a comeback in my camera video arsenal. And for the reasons that I've listed, I'm going with the Go 3. So if this video helped you make a decision on which camera is right for you, please use the links in my description. It doesn't cost you any more, but it will help me out. And if you're not sure still, I have the part 1, which is where you'll see how much I hated this camera when I first got it and the frustrations that I faced, and kind of my view of what the influencers did with their marketing. And then part 2, which will be up there once again now. I think I can do that. Maybe I can't. Either way, they were up there before and they'll be linked in the description, where you can see exactly like my full walkthrough of all the things that I've done with this camera to test it out. And I put it through its paces. So if it comes down to it, between the two, I picked the Go 3 over the GoPro, and that's my final decision. I hope that you have a great day. The pun for this video is this: which ancient philosophers were obsessed with their feet? It would either be Socrates or Plato. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.